Like Randy said, welcome to our digital marketing workshop. I'm Heather Leverage. I'm the founder and chief storyteller of Magnolia Media Group, and we are a marketing agency focused on helping organizations tell their story well. Our sweet spot is nonprofit storytelling, and we've produced award-winning work for our clients that has resulted in increased awareness, more funding, and more support. And one of those clients, of course, is Randy and the Community Foundation, who we love working with.
Yeah, and I'm Amanda Sett. I'm creative director and CEO of Rock Paper Scissors, and we're a branding and marketing agency that focuses on clients who serve the community and economic development sectors. And that includes nonprofits like the Community Foundation, who are helping address the growing needs of our Gwinnett community. And we work with our clients to solve communication problems, to paint a clear picture of your brand, to clarify your message, align your team to reach your audiences wherever they are.
Yes, awesome. All right, and so today we're going to try to keep it kind of fun and lively. But we're, like I said, a little bit of podcast style, and we're going to have some fun talking about how the nonprofit marketing world has shifted. We'll tell you about some of our favorite tools, important stats, trends to know, and more.
Yes. And so we do want to hear from you throughout the presentation. So we will be asking for you guys to use reactions and also to use the chat. So please post questions as you have them in the chat. And we definitely have a Q&A at the end. And if something's important, we'll stop and do that. But I would like everybody to test out your reactions on the screen. Oop, we got, there we go. Can y'all give us some reactions? Do you know where they are in the lower part of your screen?
Oh, so Marlene raised her hand.
There we go. Yay. So play around with those. You got some fun ones in there. So that as we have things just this interactive, we don't want this is not just stand and talk at you.
Right,
so.
right. All right, well, let's talk a little bit, kind of set the stage for this and how the pandemic has affected nonprofit marketing. We've all experienced a big shift in the past year in many ways, personally and professionally. Marketing realm is no different. So the pandemic has accelerated some trends, emphasized the importance of foundational basics, and more. Just a few of the things we've noticed is, and like Randy said too, connecting with people is just as important as it always was, if not even more important. Telling your story well is vital to breaking through the clutter and helping people know what you're doing. People are expecting to be met online even more today. I was thinking about, if this had happened like in the early part of the year, 1911 pandemic, where nobody had social. And so if you were quarantined, you were truly stuck at home with no contact. And just how a blessing it is that even though we had to go through this, we have technology and can be online. But with that goes higher expectations. Part of that is people have relaxed expectations in some other areas. We've all, cell phone videos are way more acceptable than they used to be. Everybody's used to somebody hopping on Instagram Live or Facebook Live or posting a video of their, kid doing something crazy while they were stuck at home during quarantine. But with that too, there's also increased expectations and shorter attention spans. So if people can't easily discover who you are, what your nonprofit does, find info, if your website looks old, they'll quickly tune out. So let's start with some of the basics, and I'm going to toss it over to Amanda.
So I'm going to start with some just basic branding stuff. And this is such an important stat that I feel like most people don't think about a lot because it's so easy to write something, but 65% of people are visual learners. So if all you're doing is sending emails that are written out and letters, you are not hitting people in their sweet spot. That means that you're also not being clear and being clear and consistent with your visual messaging so that you're actually resonating with your audience. I think that's such a big number. Over half of our population need to see pictures in order to understand what your story is. So you're going to hear Heather talk a lot about that story part of it. And I'm going to keep reminding you, you have to put a picture with it because it's going to help people understand it so much better. Because this is a quote I love from Donald Miller: the clearest communicator wins. If you've heard any of my previous presentations, you've probably heard me say this, and I will continue to say it because it is so true. The best products and services are not the most popular. The clearest communicators are the most popular. So if you have a good product, you need to continually be working on having the clearest message out there. And if you're not consistent, you're making your audience work harder. And And if they have to work hard, they might just go find another organization that is communicating clear, even if it's not the best one. So that's such a fundamental piece to always think about. I say this in every presentation. This is not pandemic related, but it's even more important, especially with
Yes, with our stat we have here. So last year drove 10 million more active users in the digital world. So your audience just widened greatly. And I like this next quote too. It says, the COVID-19 pandemic has driven changes in Americans' digital lives at an incredible pace and proven just how powerful a tool the internet is. So talking about some of those changes, let's look at some of the accelerated trends.
Absolutely. So I want to start today's conversation with websites. And mainly because website is the hub and foundation of all of your digital marketing, and everybody's digital now. That's just where we are. And so your audience is going to end up at your website at some point. If they're going to go, look up a phone number, you have a post, they're going to go check out your blog. So it is the core piece of all of your marketing. So we're going to start there. We need to make sure that your visual and your message are consistent. So I'm going to bring Donald Miller back.
He's so great.
Because he is really great. And he has this great just process to look at, because people scan, they don't read anymore because there's so much information they don't have time to. So it's important to grab their attention with the overall layout and the message on your site. And with the increased amount of traffic online, people having even less time, and you need to make sure that your website is very quickly easy to understand what you do and how they need to engage with it. So this is the idea that Donald Miller has shared with us, and we all love it because it's the grunt test. And basically the idea is that your website should be so easy that to understand that a caveman could figure it out. So it's 3 questions. When you pop open your website on a desktop and on mobile, does it quickly say, what does my business offer? 2, how will it make my life better? And 3, what do you need me to do to buy or get started? So those are such critical pieces. And you can do this with any of your marketing. So don't just hold this to your website. If you put a new brochure out there, if you're doing even a social media post and it's one of your call to action ones, think about this. 3 things. We can all remember 3 things.
And you might grunt while you're doing it too.
You might grunt while you're doing it as well. Absolutely. So the grunt test is a great way to see how humans are understanding your website. But we all know that algorithms are another huge component to people finding you. So we also need to take some time to understand how search engines are seeing your website. So we highly recommend doing an SEO audit of your website quarterly. And there are a lot of free and cheap tools out there to do this. But the information on the report can very quickly go over your head if you're not a developer. So we do recommend doing this with your website developer to help translate the results, because some of the results you're going to be like, we don't need to do that. That's okay. And other ones you're like, oh, that's broken. We have to fix that. That will really change the way that people find us. And so if you don't have a developer who will do this, this is a great exercise to go test out new developers. So ask, if you're going to go reach out, say, hey, I'd like you to run an SEO audit and tell me your recommendations. And then that gives you a chance to see how you interact with them and work with them. But of course, because we're going to give you guys a lot of nice tools today, we do have a list of some of them, and we'll send this out afterwards to everyone. Yeah. And all of these have links so you can go find it. But these are some of our top 4 that we flip between depending on what we're looking at. SEO Optimer is probably my go-to. Neil Patel is pretty fantastic. SEO Mater and SiteLiner are all really great tools to look at. So, go through, look at it. You can, typically you just drop your URL in, and they all have paid versions. So that gives you more detail. But as I said, I recommend go find yourself a good web developer who can talk you through it with you, and somebody you trust with that.
Randy had a question. He said, how much does it cost? So some of those have a free, like Amanda said, you just put your URL in. What you're going to get back is limited info, but there are free versions. But if you really truly want to figure out what's going on, then you're gonna have to spend a little bit of money.
Absolutely. And a little bit of money to update your site, but it's usually worth it.
Yes.
And also there's some habit. SEO is always one of those things. It's like eating healthy. It's eating a salad. You don't eat a salad and drop 10 pounds. You have to eat a salad every day in order to start seeing the results. And that's what SEO is, eating healthy for your website.
Yes. Consistency.
All right. The other thing I want to share with you guys is another great measurement tool to see how your website is performing is to use a heat map. So kind of to kind of explain what this is. If you had a store, so let's think if you were opening a retail store, you could watch people go through your store and see how they interact with your product. But you can't do that with your website. You build your website with a theory of how users will flow through the site using design best practices, but it's only a theory. You're going to, the navigation goes up here, the buttons go over here, but you don't actually know how it's going to work. So installing a heat map tool will show you how people are using it. So I'll show you what this does. It creates an overlay so that you can start to see where people are clicking and where the most traffic is. So we can really tell on this navigation that most people are going straight to that middle button and clicking on it. So it's really good to install this right after a site launches. And then, or even if you're looking at you want to redo your site, install one of these to see what people are using. So it's a great visual. See visuals to understand what people are doing. And then we have some tools that we really love. Hotjar, Full Story, and Crazy Egg are some great ones. A lot of these have free versions too. So to go ahead and install and see what's going on with it. They also always have up increase, you pay more for more data, but we don't always need data. See a question about heat map for mobile. Yes, it will track on mobile too. That might be, depending on what you're looking at, might be some of the paid versions. So just be wary. That's why I like to give you a couple different ones to look at tool wise to see what will be a good fit for you. But absolutely, you want to see how it's working. And with that, it's also really important to take some time and look at your breakdown of users and what type of devices they're using to get to your website. As marketing and nonprofit leaders here, a lot of times we're at a desk with a desktop and we forget that sometimes most of our site traffic is on a mobile device. So go in and check that when you're doing that SEO audit. Look, that's probably the first number I look at when anybody ever comes to me and says, I want to update my website. It's like, all right, well, let's go look and see who is using your website and how they're using it. And that really kind of changes how you're going to map out that story, because it's a very different footprint on that phone or not. So take a look at that. And also I don't have this on here because hopefully it should have, you guys should already have it, but make sure Google Analytics is installed on your site. It's free. If you have questions about it, come talk to one of us. We'll help you get it on.
Yeah. Speaking of mobile, the Community Foundation's website, when I was looking in their analytics not long ago, it was interesting to me that half of the visitors are on mobile and half are on desktop. And just considering that some of our audience is a little bit older, that was surprising to me, but it just shows that mobile, it's mobile first is really the world we're in.
Well, and to that point, a lot has changed in the last year. And I think I have the stat later in, but I'll go ahead and say it now, is the number we're hearing is that in the last 12 months, we have increased by 7 years worth of technology growth. So meaning we are where we thought we would be by 2028 with just consumers using technology. We skyrocketed through that. So that's an important thing to know, but that also means we have to stay up with users using technology. We can't just slowly plod along. So that's why you're going to see us. Most of this is about technology, guys. Sorry, because it's so critical, but that's so important. You're going to, if 12 months ago, most of your users were desktop and you have not looked at your breakdown of desktop to mobile, go look at it now. I bet it has changed.
And speaking of that and the importance of websites, we're going to talk a little bit about on the back end, which I just stole Amanda's thunder.
That's okay. Go for it.
So we each have our favorite page builders. In WordPress, if you don't have a site in WordPress, highly recommend that you talk to someone like one of us, because WordPress is the standard and there's so much more functionality. But with that, one of the latest page editor for WordPress is Gutenberg. And we just built a site out for a client in Gutenberg. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, because the days of it being, you just had a text box on the back end and that's all you could edit. And if you needed something else done, it was in the coding and you had to get a developer to go change the HTML. That is long gone. So Gutenberg, I'm going to talk a little bit about it. Then I've recorded a screen capture just to show you guys what it looks like. It's really shaping the future of WordPress. As one person put it, Gutenberg puts the power back in the hands of the people. It's a great starting point. It's block based, so you can add blocks, drag blocks around, fairly simple to use. There's no coding required. You can edit on the front end and back end as if you were on the page, which is really cool. Site-wide editing, you can change out hero images, you can change out buttons. So it's, again, not just a standard text block like we had years ago. It allows people to do 90% of the custom things they would have to use plugins for in the past, but just easier. It's great if you're new to WordPress or upgrading from an old version like Beaver Builder or even Divi or one of those, and you want to keep things simpler. So let me give you just a little preview real quick, and then we'll toss it back over to Amanda again.
Amanda and Heather can't hear that if there's something.
All right, hang on just a second. Let's see.
I think we just stumped the stars. I like it.
You did. Well, I don't know if I can switch that right now. Hold on.
That's okay.
Here, give me a second. Going dark for a minute.
That's right.
I'll get you back.
We'll do a little banter while we're
right.
doing
Technology.
this.
Yeah. Technology on the fly.
We can fix this.
Well, yeah, we can fix this. We'll see. Yeah. See how good you two really are.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh. Don't
So
put that pressure
much
on us.
pressure.
Oh my word. All right, we'll try a different browser and see.
You have to be patient with our slow internet that we have.
No, can y'all hear that?
Yeah, well, we can definitely hear.
All right, so here we go. So here's the back end. Typically, in older versions of before Gutenberg became the default, one of the default editors for WordPress, this would have been a text box, and you would have had to just change the text, update the featured image, and wouldn't have had a whole bunch of functionality. But now, this is on the back end, you can just click, change anything. I can go here. If I want to replace this cover image, I can go to the media library, and I can choose just about any photo once that photo actually comes up, and replace the hero image on this page. Let's just go with, say I want to do that. That's automatically there. I can change the text here. You've got all your buttons, if you want to bold it, if you want to link it, etc. And same here. And these are all text blocks. So if I wanted to add a different block, I could click here and add a block and change it up if I wanted to. Buttons are easy. You can just type in and change that text in there, hyperlink it from right here, add another button if I wanted to. I could clone this one, duplicate it. All kinds of awesome things you can do. If you want to even change the color of the text, I could go over here to color settings. I could change the text for all that block. You could also just select a little bit of it. I've got different styles in here, font to easily change that. I can go to the page. So it's a really cool way to easily update on the back end with a whole lot of functionality that wasn't there before. So that is a quick overview of Gutenberg.
Mm-hmm.
So the awesome thing about Gutenberg is it's a way better user experience, while Elementor, which Amanda is going to talk about, is more about the design and actually putting things in place like that.
And we had a question there. Is Gutenberg easy to add to existing WordPress site? Typically, if you've been updating your version of WordPress, it depends on the theme you have, though. So it's a loaded answer to that. It depends. I also saw a question up here about thoughts on Wix. Wix, personally, Heather, you can jump in there. It's a great place to start when you're launching a brand, but it is not necessarily a good sustainable website platform. We're going to keep talking about how you have to keep adding more and more technology and automation and stuff. Wix is not necessarily set up to do that as well, especially if you're going to start using a CRM, and you should be using a CRM. You want to have something that plays well with others. WordPress is still one of the best platforms out there. There are other things that I will say, it's not the end all be all, but from finding developers, finding plugins, finding people who understand the strategy behind it, it's going to be your best bet. And especially it's getting cheaper and cheaper because of things like these page builders, because you don't have to have somebody design a page and then build a page. You can be doing it all at the same time.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Gutenberg. Nope. I'm talking about Elementor. That's what happens when you read the word on the page. All right. So Elementor, and I'm not going to show this video. I'll have this in the follow-up. There are tons of videos, and Elementor's done a great job of creating so much good supplemental content. Everything's just a couple minutes long. So you don't have to watch, hours and hours to get up to speed. So this is my team's go-to page builder. We do use Gutenberg. We do some of the other ones depending on what people have. But if we're doing a site, this is the one we want to use. And mainly because it's more design-based. You heard me talking about the whole 65% of people are visual learners. Hey, this is what helps us do that. So it has a little bit more. So Gutenberg is built into WordPress. This is a plugin that works with WordPress. So you're still using a WordPress site. This one does cost some, and it's like $100 a year. Like it's not make or break, like kind of like this is so expensive. Now there are different things you can add to it, but the things that we really love about it is it does have a lot more dynamic layouts for mobile, tablet, desktop. So we can really customize what displays when we're laying out the pages, very similar to what Heather was talking about, is being able to really set up those, edit like that. And then you can say, I want that on desktop. I want it on tablet. I want it on mobile. So it has a lot of flexibility there. We can also set up branded elements without CSS. If you don't know what CSS is, just say, that's great. That just means you don't have to do the coding part to be able to set up that. And you can do a lot of that in Gutenberg too, but this is really easy way to get that in. You have the ability to save sections to be used in other areas. So you have consistency throughout. So if you have like a structure, let's say it's, maybe you have an event coming up and you have a box that you've designed and that you want to be able to feed like a sign up form in there. If you create that on your homepage, but you also want it to be on your landing page and blog pages, that piece can then be replicated, which Gutenberg can do some of that too. So don't think that these are done. We're giving you two different versions of it. As I think the example I gave Heather is like Gutenberg is like the box of 72 crayons. It's great. And then Elementor is like the box of 142.
Right.
So there's just more crayons. There's more tools. One of the big benefits that we love with Elementor is that we can build themes with Elementor. So I'm not having to go find a third-party one. I'm not having to do custom development like I used to, where our designers are building the navigation, the layout of every page in there, not just the context of it. So we can build the theme in addition to the page layout. And we're also able to layer graphics. So that's pretty fantastic. Very similar to Gutenberg. Clients feel more comfortable editing the small tasks because you can see what's happening there.
Well, the interesting part is, like somebody mentioned, Wix. A lot of people love Wix or Squarespace because it's easy for them. Well, to me, this is WordPress's answer to, hey, we want to make it easy for everybody, but still have all the functionality and have it work across all the platforms, because there are limitations to Wix and Squarespace and all of those.
Yeah. And so a lot of it really depends where your website is. If you're going to be starting over, like you need a full on refresh, Elementor is a good one because we can just start from the beginning. You have it plugged in. If you're going to convert an existing site, that might be a Gutenberg, but it depends. It's always our answer. Right. It really depends on where you are and what your goals are. So that's, Heather and I will be happy to talk to anybody about how do you really go about it to decide what is going to be the best one. And there are other ones out there, but those are just our top two.
Yeah, our favorites.
So a lot of stuff. All right. So with that, I do want to flip into the importance of data. So now we talked about design, but being able to quickly know how your marketing is doing is so essential to getting the results that you want. And so we live in an age of distraction and abundance of data. So it's really easy to follow a bright, shiny object that doesn't move the needle on your marketing. So to help you stay focused, we really recommend using a dashboard tool.
See, Randy.
And DataBox is my team's go-to tool because you can pull in so many different types of information. Right now, I'm just showing you that's just a website. It's a simplified Google Analytics, but I also have you can't really tell on this, but 4 other pages that show me my social media results and my email results, so that I have a single place where I can go and see what it is. So it's really important to do that. So I want to do a quick poll using reactions. How many of you are using some type of tracking for your marketing KPIs right now? It's a loaded question.
Mm-hmm. But it's a very important one. And the
Oh,
pandemic.
good. Randy, you put a thumbs up.
Good answer, Randy. If you didn't say that.
I'm just hoping you two are. I know. Love and trust you both to keep me on the straight and narrow.
Well, if you're not, this is an important thing to be thinking about. As everybody is shifting more and more digital, this is becoming critical. So there's 2 real important things that you should know going into this. One is know what numbers are important to your growth. Your focus, are you focused on growth? How do you know your number growth is a good growth? Because we can make numbers do whatever we want them to do. What does a spike in traffic really mean for your organization? But the good news is, even if you don't really know the answers to all these, it doesn't mean you shouldn't start building a dashboard, because a dashboard can help you start to figure out what numbers are, because it's also so easy with so many different marketing options out there to know what you should even be like, what new channel should I add in there? Or more importantly, what should you start getting rid of because it's not effective anymore? So like, for instance, if you're still using MySpace, please get rid of it. But like, you want to be able to watch those numbers. If we're seeing that I feel like every year we're like, oh, Facebook might be might be going away, and then it's not. But if you have numbers on it, you'll know to keep investing in it, because you can see that that's where your engagement is.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second piece is to have baselines for your KPIs. These key performance indicators, you really want to have a number to compare to, because a number by itself doesn't tell me. So on the screenshot, you can see this data box results is showing me what's the little green box next to it is showing me that I have increased over the last period, and the little red box says I have not increased, so that I can tell what's moving and what's not moving. And a lot of these tools will let you start to put baselines in there. So even if you don't have a baseline at the beginning, just doing a comparison is a good way to know, because you need to know if you need to drop everything and go fix it, or it's fine, we can go work on our new projects. And that's a lot of what it is you got to get in that maintenance mode with your marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And we can track it all now.
Yes. All right. So talking about trends that have been accelerated, data, like Amanda said, is a huge one. Another one, talking about chatbots. So again, going back to that personalization factor coming out of the pandemic, plus automating. We all want to work smarter, not harder. And I'm just going to highlight one real quick, which is called Chat Fuel. And we did a test on this with one of our clients just to see how it would work out. Because Facebook itself, and I'm strictly talking about Facebook right now, Facebook itself has a chatbot that's kind of built in, but it's not that great. So, but the great thing, if you implement a chatbot, is it lets your nonprofit immediately interact with supporters without you having to. So they can answer basic questions, like if you've got somebody messaging you, or people saying all the time, how can I volunteer, or what items are you accepting for donation? You can implement a chatbot which automatically answers those questions. Interesting point too. So chatbots saw a 92% use increase since 2019. So since 2019, 92% use increase in chatbots, making it the brand communication channel with the largest growth, which is really kind of cool. That blew my mind. Also by 2022, which is next year, 75 to 90% of queries are expected to be handled by chatbots. Of course, this is across all, this isn't just nonprofits, this is the whole world. But still, they're, one of the newest, greatest things that can really help you. So if we go to the next slide, I'll show you just a little bit. In this one, it says build a basic bot in 3 minutes. It probably took me 5 or 6. There was a little bit of a learning curve, but it truly wasn't that hard because it walks you through. So if you'll see in the left, it says flow. The flow is just where you're wanting it to come from. So it was a Facebook page. It popped up with a note with some instructions, and then get started. And then those little lines, like you draw a line and just click, and it automatically goes to the next flow. So you can see when somebody messages, this is for Home of Hope, when somebody messages them, a little button pops up and says get started. They click on the get started button. the next thing that pops up says, hey, thanks for reaching out. What would you like to do? If they want to volunteer and they click on that, well, then the next thing that pops up in the chat is we can always use volunteers. You must be 18 or older, and it sends you to a volunteer button. So you can, if you're getting frequently asked questions all the time or other things, you can build out a chatbot in Facebook that easily, once you do what answers the questions you're getting all the time. Somebody says, Tim, can the chatbot respond with a short code like a bit.ly link? Yes. And again, this is just the basic free version of this. You can build out custom stuff. There's the opportunities are endless with this. So just something to think about so that you're not having to, or somebody on your staff's not having to constantly answer the same questions over and over again. Another cool thing with this is they work great for volunteers. So, and you can also incorporate Calendly into a chatbot. And Amanda's going to talk a little bit about what Calendly is.
Yeah. So with that, you're going to hear a lot about automation because this is so important because we're not getting any more hours in the day. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but we seem to have more to do. So, in the last year, everything shifted to appointments. If you wanted to go somewhere, you needed to book an appointment to help control the flow of people. And it was a tough shift, but we've also all gotten used to it. And I don't think this is going to go away. I mean, it's going to fade. It's not going to be like everybody needs an appointment to like go into Target. Like that's gone. But like there's going to be some places that it really actually works well. So there's some real perks to think about with that. And this is just another level of, you could use a chatbot to go to something like Calendly so people can book times to come in. Actually, and Calendly was the tool that at least Georgia used for booking COVID vaccines. And the reason that I bring that up, that's a big scale, but it also can be as small as how do they schedule appointments with even executive directors. If you have only want to meet with people on a certain level, or you're trying to do some type of fundraising thing, that's a great way to send out a link if you want to set up meetings with your donors to say, hey, book a time with me. It helps you know who's coming. Like if this is not a specific one around starting to just set simple meetings and you want to use it to schedule volunteers, or if you're doing some type of food bank and you want people to come in by appointment, then you know when people are coming and it gives you a better idea for projecting and for staffing because of that. But you can also prepare people because there's a lot of automation that you can also build into it with reminders of if they need to reschedule or what they should bring when they come. So that's cutting down on some of your FAQ. That's helping people feel more prepared when they walk in there. And so this marketing tool is about creating a great experience so that people will talk about it. So word of mouth, and then they will come back. So those are just some things to be thinking about. There's a free version. There's a little bit of a paid version. All of these things are good to know.
All right. Another trend that's been accelerated, audience segmentation. Each email you send, and we're talking just here in the email world, should be personally relevant to the people receiving it. The only possible way to do this is through effective email list segmentation. In the past, especially years ago when all this was getting started, you could simply send emails to your entire database and that was okay. That no longer yields results. Interesting stat. We now send more than 300 billion emails every day. 300 billion emails every day. So you think about that and you're like, if you're not speaking to your audience directly, personally, as much as you can, how are you going to cut through the clutter? You'll just get lost in the noise of the average email inbox. So relevance is the name of the game. Each email you send should be personally relevant to the people receiving it, which is only possible, like I said, through effective email list segmentation. And really what I'm saying with this is take a look at your database and make sure it's broken down. Even, if you don't have a whole lot of time or resources, just even make sure you've got an email list for donors, an email list for volunteers, an email list for, maybe the people that you're serving, and that you're sending out messages that speak directly to those people instead of just blasting everybody with the same thing all the time. You can always go deeper. We highly recommend that too. But again, knowing, just kind of where you are. And if you haven't started at all, don't get overwhelmed and think, oh my gosh, I need, 50 lists and drill down to people's birthdays. No, just start somewhere and get started. So audience segmentation is very important. Mm-hmm. Another trend that kind of blew my mind because I thought, oh, this is going to go away, but Amanda's going to talk about it.
QR codes. I'm so excited that they're back. So QR codes have really been around since 1994. I actually looked that up because I was really kind of curious. They got popular in the 2010s, but it faded because you had to download an app, and not everybody was downloading it, so it wasn't really worth it, and you had to pay for the codes. But that's not the case anymore. Now cell phone cameras just read them. And so that has been such a game changer. I mean, how many of you have been to a restaurant and you have a QR code to see the menu? Like that's the reality that we're in. But we can also have a lot of fun with QR codes now. We can brand them. We can make them colors. We can make them fun shapes. We can drop your logo into the middle of it. So it doesn't have to be just this boring little black and white shape on there. We can have a lot of fun thinking about how do you want people to interact. And it's all about taking people to a very specific element within your website, or it could be social media if you want to, but typically you want to go to a website with that. So it's helping people get there faster. And it's instead of clicking a link, it's wherever they are to be able to click on that. So that's a critical piece to that.
Speaking of QR codes, did you see, I actually think it was in China, they did a QR code in the sky with drones,
No.
and you could point your phone at it and it would take you to a link. If
Right.
y'all look it up, like if you Google it, it will come up. But it was drones. I don't know how many drones they had to use, but to make an aerial QR code.
That's fantastic.
I know it's kind of a little bit creepy, but also I'm like, that's really cool, really
Yeah.
brilliant use of that.
So, and the tools that I'm going to share with you guys, they're not very creative since it's QR Monkey and QR Chimp, but whatever, they're both really great. And they both have free options for generating your codes. So, all right.
All right, another accelerated trend, giving experiences. So according to one stat I found actually from Nonprofit Pro, they did a survey and they found that nearly half of those they surveyed felt like they could be doing better with online giving, with only 16% saying they were very successful in 2020. So if you're not focusing on the giving experience, because as you all know, in the nonprofit world, your donors are so crucial. If you're not focusing on that, you're probably leaving dollars on the table. So nonprofits who focus on humanizing and simplifying the digital giving experience will continue to be successful. One thing you can do is re-examine your online donation processes through the eyes of donors who may only interact with your cause virtually this year. If you feel like you're too close to it, grab a volunteer, grab your neighbor who doesn't even know what you do and say, hey, can you check out our online giving experience and see what you think about it and get their feedback. Make sure mission messaging, impact statements, donor recognition are all central parts of your online fundraising, because you really want that experience to connect your donors to your mission and make it a frictionless process. If they have to click through 7, 8 times, I mean, even 3, 4 times just to find out how to donate, you're going to lose people. So consider that the mobile experience, text to give, even donate button on Facebook, the giving sticker on Instagram, just make it as easy as possible for people to give to you.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit about digital advertising with that. And I want to hit on YouTube bumper ads, which is one of I'll say our favorite and least favorite all at the same time. But bumper ads are 6-second unskippable video ads that play before YouTube videos. And it's one of 6 different advertising formats on YouTube. And due to their short length, bumper ads are best for awareness and reach. And for those of you who've never made a 6-second video, it's really short. So here, I'm going to show you how short a 6-second video is. It's tricky to come up with your message, but that's it. That's 6 seconds. It's it. You can say one thing, but it's such an effective way to do some brand awareness if you want to get your message out there. We can focus on demographics to your target audience and run very inexpensive campaigns. So depending on your designated marketing area, your DMA, or your industry, we're looking at anywhere from $1 to $4 cost per 1,000 impressions.
It's really good.
Yeah, that's just, you're not going to necessarily get people to click through on that, but you're going to build awareness of a campaign or something that you're working on or a message that you want to get out there. And we all have a lot of messages that we need to get out there. So it's a very effective way to do that. And we can geographically target where that's going to. So it's just something to think about as you're building out there so that you're building that recognition. But it's also very critical to have a consistent visual message so people know in 6 seconds that it's you.
Yes.
And we'll have links to all of these in the presentation that we send out again so that you guys get a sense of what it is. It takes It takes a while to get it down to 6 seconds. Just know that. And it's probably, you can do these, build them yourself. Just also call Heather or I can help you, because it is sick. It's maybe 10. If you're going to do a voiceover, it's maybe like 10 words. So how do you get your message down to 10 words? So people
So,
can
hey guys, we've had a request to play that video again, and then somebody asked if 6 seconds is the most that you can do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can play it again. Yes, it's max. You can only do 6 seconds for bumper ads.
There are other ads you can do that are different, but, and the reason we mentioned this too is YouTube's one of the fastest growing platforms. So if you look at, you know, on the latest research, it's YouTube, Facebook, and then so on. So,
and this ad, I'll play it again, but we actually have it in 2 languages. So we're doing it in Spanish and English. So you can even do that demographic split because it's so short. It's not that hard once you have the video. So with that, it's all about repetition. Somebody's going to see it over and over and over again so that they get the idea of what it is, but it's not long. All right. So with that, there we go.
all right. And we're going to talk a little bit about Facebook and Instagram advertising, building off of YouTube as well. Another mind-blowing stat, Facebook is accessed by, we'll go to the next slide, by 2 billion US users monthly. So 2 billion people are on Facebook every month just here in the US. So the potential of your target marketing outreach is great. In addition, 70% of all US users access Facebook daily. So daily. So if you don't even have a Facebook page or you're not utilizing it, please do, because you're missing out. And we talk a lot about websites, but people also go to your social media a lot of times to check out. Sometimes they'll go there before they go to your website just to see, hey, what are they doing? Are they actually active? How can I find out more? So on and so forth. When you're thinking about advertising, a lot of times you get a lot of bang for your buck with Facebook and Instagram, because Instagram is now owned by Facebook. It's one of the cheapest ways to advertise with the average cost per click of $1.72. We've actually gotten lower than that for our clients, but again, it's a great way to get a lot of bang for your buck. 2 things I want to mention really quickly is you need to have a pixel installed on Facebook's side. The pixel is a snippet of code that collects data and helps you track conversions from Facebook ads, optimize those ads, build targeted audiences, and remarket people, because that pixel tracks back to your website. Some of y'all who are deep in this, you may have heard that there are changes because Apple's gotten choosy about what data they're going to allow Facebook to track. People have been all up in arms. What is this going to mean for us? So yeah, there are some changes to it. Facebook has come out with their own solution to it. It's called Facebook Conversions API, which is designed to help businesses maintain data privacy while still delivering personalized advertising experiences. And it again goes back to your website, which again is so critical. Why you've got to have a great website. Because in the past, Apple would pull little snippets called cookies, and they would track all your cookies, and that's going away. There's a lot more we could talk about in that, but just want to say, you know, if you want help with that, figuring out the best way to move forward, talk to me or Amanda on that end. All right, storytelling. One of my favorite subjects. Pandemic has, again, another trend that has really accelerated that high quality content is even more important, because your donors, readers, social media users, all of us, we get bombarded every minute with ads, our neighbors' vacation pictures, Twitter anecdotes, an overflowing inbox. So how do you stand out in a world as busy as that? There are lots of things that will help you along the way, some we've talked about, but nothing is quite as foundational as good storytelling. It helps you cut through all the clutter. So good storytelling, it means tossing out all the jargon, being real. It accomplishes 3 main jobs: grabs attention, elicits emotion, inspires action. One thing I want everybody to remember, because we tend to think, oh, the data is so important, which it is. Data is very important, but data makes people think. Emotions make people act. So does your storytelling include a combination of both? And how donor focused is your content? Your goal is to make donors feel like heroes and to share stories that matter to them. So storytelling is super, super important. All right. And then we're going to, another important part of storytelling is the visuals that go with it, which I'm tossing over to Amanda.
Yeah. So my goal today is to sound like a broken record when it comes to consistent visual marketing. So I hope I hope you're getting tired of me saying it, because that means you might actually hear me. But to make this happen, you have to make it really easy for your team and your advocates to really share consistent graphics and visuals so that everybody has the same tool. So we are big fans over here of Canva. You know,
Same.
I have all of our designers on Adobe, but we flip everything to Canva as soon as we can when a brand launches so that everybody has access to logos, images, colors, fonts, design templates. And this is just a little snapshot of what we can load up. We just did this for the Gwinnett Coalition. We can put all of their fonts, all of their colors, so their logos in there. We can build templates with their business cards, their social media platforms, PowerPoint slides, all of that's in there. So if something comes up and you're so inspired or an opportunity hits, you can make sure that it's branded. There is no good excuse anymore for not having a good branded social media post. People need to, I mean, think about that scroll. People are just sitting and scrolling on their phones and they need to stop and pause. You're making people work too hard if they can't quickly recognize you. So Canva is definitely the go tool.
Love Canva. Love it. All right. So we talked about all this great technology, all these things that the pandemic has accelerated, but there are some things that never go away. So some old fashioned methods still work and mean even more in this digital age. So do not, with all the great stuff we're talking about, don't forget about the importance of handwritten notes, phone calls. Those should still be part of your marketing strategy because they humanize your nonprofit and the efforts that you're doing. For example, we had a client that we just polished up a letter they had written that they wanted to send out, snail mail in people's mailboxes. And so that one letter, it was a fundraising letter, brought in $10,000 for their nonprofit. It made an impact, had a great story in it, had a great call to action, and it was just personal from them. So just don't forget, again, that personal touch, that there's old school, it still matters in this day and age.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we're just going to do a little repetition here because we threw a lot at you, but these are your key things to focus on in 2021. So first up, no surprise for me, technology. Technology is so critical. We've seen our whole web population has advanced. This is saying 7 years of where we thought we would be pre-pandemic trajectory. So technology is not going away. It's only going to increase. And so the three things that I think are really critical to focus on: your website. You should know this by now if you've been sitting here. We need to think more than just a brochure. This needs to be a tool you invest in that gives you the ability to integrate other technologies like a CRL, maybe an internal hub for your staff or clients. There's so many possibilities that you can be using your website for. Then there's a CRM. And there's tons of options. I think I saw a question there recommending CRMs. It really comes down to, what do you need your technology to do? And there's some good tools. G2 Crowd is probably one of my favorites if you're going to start the research phase of what CRM do you want to use. But look at that because it's really important so that you can segment your list, that you can integrate with your website, you can automate some workflows. And this can really be it also can be a big part of your internal procedures. A lot of these CRMs allow you to have some documentation of like how you want, it automates flows for if volunteers are entering people's information, you can have all that mapped out in your CRM. So it's really important to know what you need your CRM to do and really kind of look at your, this is a good time to pull out like your 3, 5, 10-year strategy, because you might get a CRM that's way more than you need today, but you want to get one that you don't have to change later. So it's going to have that growth with you.
And there are giving platforms that have CRMs built into. Yep. So consider that, if you want an all-in-one package.
Yep. There's so many specific ones to the nonprofit industry. It's a great place to start. And then automation. That's the biggest thing. We've talked about this a lot. So days are not getting any longer. We have more to do. So use technology to automate as much as you can so you can really focus on the things that only you as a human can do. Like what can we let the robots do? Bring on the robots.
That's right. Another important thing to focus on in 2021 is showing impact, because if you're as a nonprofit are not showing your donors, volunteers, the community at large impact you're making, then it's going to be harder for them to want to buy into your story. People need to be able to quickly see who you're serving, what services you're providing, where you're serving, why your nonprofit is vital, how you're making a difference. It should be others focused. So I threw up this newsletter that we did it's a quarterly newsletter for a client. And it actually, one of the trends too, instead of doing the typical once a year annual report is to do quarterly impact reports. And so this kind of acts like that for this client. So it's got a great story about showing the impact they made in this senior's life. And then on the next slide, it will show one of their board members. Plus there's a personal letter from the executive director and just showing, hey, here's what happened in 2020 and how we pivoted. And then so again, you've got to show impact so that people can see themselves in your story and want to be part of that story. Another important thing to focus on in 2021, Amanda's going to talk about.
Consistent branding.
Mm-hmm.
No surprise here. So we're just going to repeat it one more time, and then I promise I'm done for at least today. But it's really important to have that consistency so that your brand, when it shows up, people recognize it, because there is a little dopamine hit what happens in people's brains when they recognize something. So if you don't have that consistency, so I pulled this specific nonprofit up here. We put their logo on a bus, on a MARTA bus, and that's really fast for somebody to recognize it. But they've had such consistent branding so along the way that we can do that. People are going to recognize that brand. And it's what's, whether it's on a bus or on social media and you're scrolling through it fast, people need to quickly understand who you are and know that it all goes together.
Mm-hmm. And again, broken record, but make giving easy. It goes back to what we talked about earlier. The pressure is on to really hone in on your donor's giving experience. So they've got to be able to easily give through your website, whether they're on a phone or a computer or clicking through an email. For younger donors, don't forget about them. Meet them where they are. Text to give is a great way to reach them. There's a lot that are on Venmo. We work a lot with college students through our church, and everybody, that's how they're swapping money back and forth and paying for coffee and all the different things. There's one platform I found, which is called Give Butter. Give Butter. It's all one word. And it integrates Venmo into the giving process. It's the only one I found, but just a quick little tip there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Another thing to focus on.
And then targeting your messaging. As you've heard today, we can get very specific with our messaging. So don't waste your audience time with something generic that might connect. Use your segments and what's going on in your conversation so that you really can have that ROI and it can be exponential. So use your email segments, use your CRM, use our social media to your advantage. If this is something you haven't done before, but it can feel like a lot, but there are people who can help you with this. And if you don't start practicing this marketing strategy, other nonprofits will and start to have a clearer message. Going back to the clearest communicator wins, therefore they are going to win. And so you're going to get further and further behind. So just do something. Just start thinking about it today, if nothing else, and know that this is not going to go away. And you're going to hear Heather and I talk about this a lot more later this year in our, hopefully in person.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Last thing, again, want to repeat, is creating high quality content. So back in 2000, survey showed you had 12 seconds or less to capture a visitor's attention. 2016 survey said it was more like around 8 seconds or less. And this is in context around what people are viewing on a website. So, but you got to add in pandemic minds. These are minds that are stressed, overloaded with info, having to multitask all the time. And so capturing their attention is very tricky. So one of the best things to do, pay attention to storytelling. It still works really great. Mm-hmm. What still grabs and holds people is powerful stories on ancient themes like identity, change, and revenge. Our brains still work. They're just stressed out. It's a quote that I found. So don't forget the importance of high quality content, high quality storytelling when it comes to your marketing in 2021.
All right. I'm going to launch a poll for everybody real quick. We want to know what you guys want to learn more about, because we're going to be back in July. And there's 2 questions to this. We want to know what you're interested in. We also want to know if you want to be in person or online. Usually every July, this will be Heather and I's.
Sixth?
I think it's our 6th. It'll be our 6th seminar. So let us know what
6th year.
6th year. Yeah. Let us know what you guys would like to know more about. We'd love to hear from you. We want this to be, if it's not what you need, it's not going to be worth it.
Right.
So while you're filling that out, we're going to open up for questions. And I saw a hand raised. It's been raised for a while.
We will put our contact info in the chat too.
Yes, we will definitely. All right. I'm not seeing a name on this one.
So Amanda and Heather, while you guys are doing that, I know we were, set for an hour. So those folks that need to drop off, that's fine. But I take it you guys will stay in studio and answer questions for as long as people
Mhm.
want to hang out and do that. So we
Absolutely.
thank you for today. Chatbots and grunt tests and aerial QR codes. My mind is so we appreciate everybody joining us. Next up for the Community Foundation in May, we're going to take a little turn to the left, and we'll be spending time around the financial markets and the global markets, and because we all got to keep a watch on those as the world comes back. So our friends from the Capital Group, which is a $2 trillion global company that we work with, will be doing that presentation. And then coming up on June 24th, I want to make sure you guys get this on your calendar. 9 o'clock, we're going to do a 2.5-hour session with you around leading organizational change. Every one of your organizations has to change, and you know that. How do I go about doing that? How do I work with that? And we're bringing in Ryan Sassoin from Austin, Texas, who I've worked with for a number of years. So Ryan and his team will be teaching a opening 2.5-hour session. And then again, that'll be on Thursday, June 24th at 9 o'clock. Okay. Thanks for everybody for joining us. Hang in with Amanda and Heather. They'll answer questions until at least 3 o'clock this afternoon. So I'll turn it back over to the dynamic duo.
Randy's very generous with our time.
All right,
Yes,
we have a
I am.
hand raised. We have a hand raised. I'm sorry, Gwinnett. I can't see your background. You have a globe behind you.
Gwinnett Outreach. Gwinnett
Yes.
something Outreach had a hand raised.
Do you have a question? You can unmute yourself.
I did that a long time ago, but one of the
We didn't forget about you.
It's fine. One of the things that I do, I'm pretty much a one-person team, and I'll say one of the things that I do that helps me out is I work with small businesses, and I will get them personalized T-shirts with their logo on the front, and then mine on the back. And then I will work with them to donate a percentage of the profits back to my nonprofit. That's one thing that's really helped me. And also they will let me use their space for free meeting places as well.
Nice.
Cool. Way to think outside the box.
I just saw a question from Angela, and it says, do you have sources where we can compare with nonprofit trends to see how organizations are related to KPIs? Yes, there's lots of baselines that are out there. Some of these dashboard builders can pull them in for you. Most of the email platforms out there have the baseline trends. I know you can find some on social media. It does take a little research to figure out which ones you want to use, but it's you can find the data. It's not that hard to see what's working. I know. I think MailChimp's usually my go-to to start because they just make it very easy for me to find an industry standard and then to kind of go from there. Let's see. We had a question about, can Chatbot respond with short code?
Yeah, I think I answered
good.
that one in the, if Chatbot cannot answer, does it let them know? So yes, you can build that in. You can also, if you have, like 3 questions, tell me more about volunteering, tell me more about donating, ask me another question, then it will go straight to your messenger and leave it for you to answer yourself. So there's different functionality there.
There's a question about how do you balance chatbots and personal interactions? How many texts and SMS per day?
Well, chatbots and personal interaction, I mean, your chatbot is really to make your life easier. So if it's questions people are asking you all the time, like they could actually go to your website and find, but they're not, I mean, that doesn't require personal interaction because they truly just want a transaction. They just want to find out, how can I do this? But if it's more, I mean, if it's a donor asking questions, well, then of course you want that personal interaction there. And then how many texts and SMS per day? I'm guessing.
Like if it's on a regular basis, don't overwhelm your people. Like that's like 1 a week, unless you're letting them opt into daily text messages. Really think about it and even just think about your personal experience, how much you want to, but less is more. So it depends.
Yeah.
I think that's always the answer. We need shirts that just say it depends.
Situationally based.
Hey, Amanda and Heather, Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, James is from the city of Alpharetta, hopefully still on the call. James, you were asking about the impact of video. So can you unmute and ask?
Yeah, guys.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
thanks for your time today. One of the things that we're really shifting to, and I'm really on the call as a member of the North Fulton board for United Way, but I'm also over communications for the city of Alpharetta. We're shifting a lot towards video to help with our storytelling, simply because it's even more impactful than typical graphics, and video has become so easy. Can you speak a little bit to some of the tools that some of the not-for-profits can use, that to leverage video, make the editing side of it easier? Because somebody like me, I dive into Final Cut no problem, but there's a lot of very easy, user-friendly tools out there that folks can use to produce high-impact video to advance their storytelling.
Yeah, it's growing faster and faster. It's from an easy sample. This is a tricky question because we're a bit like you. We're going to use some of the higher end tools, because a lot of what I'm doing when I'm doing videos and thinking about it as a bigger strategy is we're setting up systems for creating and editing videos. So it's, if you're going to be doing videos a lot, yeah, there are tools to go in and quickly create and cut and edit together on your phone. And there's tons of apps out there, but that's not necessarily sustainable. And we really, we're coming out of this pandemic, and we need to stop thinking about things as quick stopgaps. We really need to be thinking about, okay, how can we do video sustainably in our organization? And I know nonprofits, you don't have big budgets and to do this, but what are you going to invest in if this is really important, so that you have some really good built-in intros, outros, a good library of whatever your music is, getting equipment. There's cheap stuff out there. We could probably do a whole day on how to get that up, but you have to start investing in it and not thinking about how can I do this as cheap as possible, but how can, if you're doing it for your nonprofit right now, okay, what happens, not if you leave, when you leave, that somebody can take that over, or if you have interns come in, or you have another volunteer come in. So I'm going to say, Heather might have other answers, but I think it's important to stand on my system soapbox, because you're only going to have a great set of videos for whoever's controlling it now, unless you start thinking about how do we consistently do it. And that's why I'm going to flip back to things I've already talked about. Like, that's why I love tools like Canva that has that structure in. And we're actually playing around with Canva, has some video editing in it, but there's other tools out there like that where you can build in, this is how we do all of our videos so they are consistent. So I know I didn't really answer your question, but that was I think it's something to think about.
Right. That's great. I agree, because you want the quality there and for people to know, oh, we're going to expect this caliber from them. One quick, because I know sometimes like you're on location somewhere and you've just got your cell phone and you want to grab a quick video. Filmora Go, it's Filmora Go, Filmora Go, is a desktop and mobile based platform. So the app on your phone or it's on your desktop, which has a ton of functionality. You can go as deep as you want and layer, a music track in there. You can do your credits and all those kinds of things, but it's for somebody with a little bit of knowledge, it's fairly intuitive as well. So that's just one little tip there on that.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And James, the good news is you're talking about the United Way board in North Fulton. Amanda's on the United Way board in Gwinnett. So, just reach out to her, peer to peer from that. Hey, I do want to get to Denise's question as well. And you guys kind of jumped around it a little bit. So Denise, if you can unmute, because, a lot of who we work with at the Community Foundation is our small and medium sized nonprofits. I mean, I love it when the big guys show up like they did today, but your question is a good one. So go ahead and stump the stars if you would.
Hi, my name is Denise Arribas, and I'm the company director for an organization called Humorology Atlanta. And I'm in charge also of marketing. And as anybody in a nonprofit can tell, we wear 1,000 hats all at the same time. And I guess my question is, if we have a small budget, not a lot of bandwidth, what would be the number one thing I would focus on?
Your website. That's really what it kind of comes down to. Yeah, because if you have a small budget and you're going to invest in something, that's going to be a big foundation piece. A lot of the other things can be you can cheap or free, but that would be the piece to really look at. It's also really important to do strategy before you just start going into this, of looking at what do you want the rest of this year to look like. One of the things we start with our clients beginning of every year is we do a goal setting session, and we start with, it's like we do a little bit of a SWOT analysis to see how the year's going, and we come up with anywhere between 2 and 4 goals that we want to have happen. And I say this because I think it's an important way to think. This is how I answer the question of it depends.
Okay.
If we know what is relevant and how to work through it, that's what we look at. And when we look at those 2 to 4 goals, I'm always looking at two kind of categories. I want something to be a long-term investment that you're doing. It's the important and not urgent. And then we need the urgent in there too. Like, what are those critical fundraising campaigns that need to go out there? What are some of the, meetings that you need to set up to get the donors that you need? Those are the definite urgent ones. But if you don't take the time to put that important piece in there, it means that you're not building those foundations, building those roots to give you the sustainability that you need moving forward.
Yeah, and I'm going to answer along the same and a little differently. Having a plan is so important. We work with a lot of small and medium-sized nonprofits. So I totally get what you're coming from, and what we have found. If you don't have a large marketing budget, you're trying to get the most bang for your buck. Of course, have a plan, know where you're going. Focus on your website, focus on social media, and focus on email marketing. And those 3 things tied together can really make a lot of impact. For example, we had a client that just wrapped up yesterday a fundraising campaign. And when we started with them a year and a half ago, their social media, they had like 150 followers, and now we're up to, I think, over 1,000. But they had a matching grant of 15,000, wanted to raise an additional 15,000. And so we launched a social media campaign plus an email campaign. Plus we wrote out emails for their board to send out personally on their behalf, which that made a big difference too. And we really pushed their board to be part of this. And so they not only met their match, they exceeded that. I think as of 4:00 yesterday, they had exceeded their match. So yeah, website, social media, email. That's not one thing, but if you've got the bandwidth to do 3,
Yeah,
that can really get you far.
and your social media can be very inexpensive. Email can also be, like, so many of these platforms have nonprofit rates or free for nonprofits. So those are ones, but like dollar wise, put your dollars in your website, and a plan.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Heather, I do want to pull in the podcast thought, because you're pushing and pulling, our organization into that, and podcasts have been around for a while, but exploded, this past year from that. So can you talk about that as a new kind of marketing, at least for the community foundation? It's going to be a new marketing channel for it.
Yeah. And again, I think that depends on what you want to accomplish. I was reading an article the other day this author said every nonprofit should have a podcast. And I was like, no, that doesn't work for every nonprofit. And I mean, I love all you guys. I love what everybody does, but not everybody wants to listen to what everybody does. But if you have a wider audience, a bigger picture, depending on what you're doing, say if you're a nonprofit operating in the world of autism, that might make great sense for you to launch a podcast. And the great thing with a podcast is it can become kind of your cornerstone content. So you've got that podcast you launch every month, bi-monthly, whatever it is. And from that, you build out blog posts, you build out social media posts, you build out graphics. So it goes so much further than just that one and done podcast that goes out. So, and it really is, I forget the stat I had, but they are huge, and they're growing in popularity because people can listen to them anywhere,
on demand.
Right. On, on their Peloton, in their car, in their, wherever they are. And so, yeah, so that's one thing. Again, if you don't have a lot of time and resources, probably not the one thing you want to focus on. But if you do and you have a bigger audience and you're like, oh, this might really help advance our cause, it goes back to your plan. Like, what's my end goal? Does it fit into my plan? Podcast would be great. We are, like Randy said, the Community Foundation and the Coalition are teaming up to start a podcast or to take over a podcast next month that it will be on Gwinnett Business X Radio, and just talking about some of the big initiatives that we're tackling together in Gwinnett, from workforce development to food insecurity to homelessness and housing and all of that, which is we're very excited about that. So long answer.
Yeah. And part of our strategy is to fly cover for all of your guys' work, and then, get you to come onto our podcast from time to time. So that's good. Somebody was asking, Beth, you can unmute and stump the stars on your question around how do you drive your social media numbers?
Oh, let's see. How do you get your social media numbers up?
Beth?
So that's a holistic effort. So yes, you need to start putting some money behind your social media, and that's creating ads, boosting posts. That has worked really well, but it's also promoting it through your emails, saying, hey, are you following us? We got a great story. Make sure you've liked us. Getting your board on board, making sure your social media is on your website. I've been on different nonprofit pages and I'm like, I don't even know if they're on social media. It's not even on their website. So again, and it takes that mindset. Plus, the more people you can get user-generated content. So if you've got volunteers taking pictures and tagging you in it, that helps grow your following too. So it really is a holistic effort. But again, and I'm talking about even $100, $150 a month that you spend on advertising, yes, can make a difference. Like the client I was talking about that we grew their following, I think their budget is $100 a month. So it's small.
And Greg Lang isn't on anymore, but he was asking, and we'll keep it on the recording. Thoughts on future or in-person fundraising events? Are galas past their prime? I think we're going to have a huge surge once everybody can go back. I think everybody's missed everyone. I'm seeing everybody's in-person events just immediately like sell out because they're ready. So wants to do it.
Yes.
So we're going to have a spike. And hopefully just attendance spike, and that's the only spike we have, and then we'll see what kind of happens with it, because we got a lot of cool things that we did in the last 12 months to be creative, and we're going to decide what we want to keep and what we don't want to keep. And I think people are going to also be a lot more protective of their time after that initial spike. People are going to go back to it and do all the things, and then they're going to, I hope they do. I hope they'll remember that they do have control. They don't have to go to everything, which is a challenge for nonprofits in your events. So it really goes back to Heather's point of it has to be good content. If it's not good content, people aren't going to come. People aren't just going to show up to show up. They want to come to something that's going to move them, inspire them, make a difference. And so it really just goes back to having a good event and a good story to tell that sticks with people. And I always live with, this is the quote that my team lives by. It's Maya Angelou, and is, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget the way that you made them feel.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you focus on that, that makes such a different approach when you're starting events. So there will be events, and they're whatever we imagine them to be. Have fun with them.
I think the virtual component will be here to stay. I think a lot of them will be hybrid, like come in person. And for those who don't
you got it, Heather. That's exactly right. You're going to have to build that component in from now on. Right. Yeah.
Right.
That's
because you might have somebody across the country that's like, I want to tune in, or somebody's sick at home and they still want to, whatever. So I think you have to get very creative about how do I make the online experience plus the in-person experience good.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Plus that also allows, because you can record it, and it makes the sunset, of that event much longer. It's not a once and done event, and it's all that kind of creativity that we've learned over the last 12 months and incorporating it as we come back to these live events. And those people that are going to be good at it are going to be the ones that are super uber successful. Somebody could sunset that event over a week. Right. At the Community Foundation, when Heather, this, we're playing with our large event of 1,000 people and going, okay, what if we made it a weekend event where it's, we do a micro event here in this part of the community on a Friday night, and a micro event in this part of the community on a Saturday night and a Sunday. Make it and stretch it out. It's kind of a bridge to getting back to this full blown big event that we typically did. So we're thinking of bridge strategies ourselves, but absolutely the virtual has got to be a component. So,
and to that, the reason that people are getting really good at this is they're doing it.
Yeah.
So part of it is stop thinking, stop planning, and go
Just
do it.
do it.
Go
like Nike.
practice. And I think I this is another thing I hope sticks with it is people were really forgiving during the pandemic of people trying new things, having hiccups. We're real, we're human, we're not perfect. And so just do it. The more you do it, the better you get at it. My favorite, and this is not a nonprofit thing, but one of my favorite client quotes ever was a dentist who told me, he's like, Amanda, there's no weekend course that will give you 35 years of experience. And that's the same thing to doing events, to communicating. You just have to do it. You're going to trip. You're going to make mistakes. You know what? We did that when we learned how to walk and we got much better at it. We can all, put one foot in front of another. Now we're fine,
Just try it.
but it's the same thing. And just getting used to that idea that failure is not a bad thing. We learn more through that. So go buy a microphone, go do a podcast, go record a video. The price to enter is so much cheaper now. Just got to do it, got to practice. And you might only have 3 people at your first thing. Well, that's okay. Because then if you have 6 at the next one, you just doubled your audience. So, all right.
Okay. Any
other
last questions
guys?
for the rock stars in this after party? Thanks for doing the after party, girls. I really appreciate
No
it.
problem.
You
It's
ladies.
been fun.
Yeah. Any
Oh,
last
did we
questions?
ask about in person?
It's in here.
Okay. Oh, good. We had to scroll down.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
I don't.
thank you, everyone. We'll get
Yep.
the recording out. We'll send the PowerPoint with a bunch of links in it. So you guys have it. My guess is that'll probably be early next week. You guys have our contact information. Don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Yes, use it.
Right.
Thanks,
See you guys.
Amanda.
Thank y'all.
Thanks,
Have a great
Heather.
day.
You guys
Bye.
rocked it. Bye-bye.
Bye.